I never imagined that my life as a forensic investigator would lead me down a path so dark it felt as though the boundaries between technology and the human soul were dissolving before my very eyes. My name is Elena Rivera, and this is the story of how I uncovered the Flesh Archive, a conspiracy that not only recorded the final, terror-stricken moments of its victims, but also stripped away pieces of their very identities. It all began on a rainy autumn night. I was poring over the case files of a series of bizarre, unsolvable murders when I first heard whispers of a forbidden technology. The victims were all found in deserted alleyways, their bodies left with a single, inexplicable clue, a small, high-tech device embedded in their temples. The device, I learned, had the capability to record and replay the victims' final sensory experiences. But as I delved deeper, the recordings revealed something far more sinister than mere evidence of death. I still remember the first time I played one of the recordings. In the dim light of my office, I sat before my monitor, headphones clutched tightly in my hand, and pressed play. The audio was a chaotic symphony, a mixture of desperate gasps, muffled cries, and a haunting, low-frequency pulse that seemed to vibrate through my very bones. As I watched the grainy video, I saw fleeting images, the terror in a victim's eyes, the twitch of a hand reaching out for help, and shadows moving in the background, as if a presence was there, lurking just beyond the frame. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was witnessing something far beyond the realm of ordinary crime. My investigation took me to the underbelly of our city, where the neon lights of downtown faded into a maze of forgotten streets and abandoned buildings. I soon discovered that the devices were being distributed by a crime syndicate known only as the Archive. Rumors suggested that the Archive was an organization with deep ties to both the criminal underworld and a secretive scientific community obsessed with the limits of human physiology. Their aim was simple yet horrifying: to capture not just a moment in time, but the very essence of what it means to be human. As I dug further, I learned that each victim's experience wasn't just recorded. It was harvested. A piece of their identity, a shard of memory or emotion, was extracted along with the sensory data. It was as if the device was siphoning off a part of their soul, leaving behind a husk of a person. I began to question the morality of our own technological advancements. How had we come to a point where a machine could reach into the deepest corners of our being? Late one night, after hours spent decoding the recordings, I received an anonymous message on my secure line. The voice on the other end was distorted, yet familiar in its urgency. Elena, if you want to understand the Archive, look no further than the old laboratory on 7th Street. There, you will find the truth, and perhaps redemption for us all. The message ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving me with a mix of dread and determination. The laboratory was a relic from a bygone era, hidden behind a facade of rust and decay. I recalled that the building once belonged to a cutting-edge research institute that had mysteriously shut down decades ago. The air inside was thick with the smell of chemicals and forgotten experiments. Dust motes danced in the beams of my flashlight as I navigated through corridors lined with shattered glass and obsolete equipment. In a hidden room at the end of a long, narrow hallway, I found a terminal still humming with residual power. Scanning through files and encrypted logs, I pieced together the origins of the Archive. The device had been created as part of an experimental project designed to record the intricate details of human experience, an endeavor meant to revolutionize memory preservation and therapy. However, as funding dried up and ethical boundaries were crossed, the project was abandoned. That was until it was repurposed by a group intent on exploiting the human psyche for their own gain. My heart pounded as I uncovered document after document detailing how the syndicate had reverse-engineered the original technology, infusing it with malevolent intent. They weren't interested in healing or preserving memories. They wanted control. Control over what people remembered, how they felt, and ultimately, who they were. The device was a tool of psychological warfare, designed to instill terror and create a collective amnesia that would serve as the foundation for their dark agenda. Armed with this damning evidence, I knew that I had to act quickly. But the deeper I went, the more I felt the weight of a presence following me, a shadow that seemed to mimic my every move. It was as if the very act of uncovering the truth had awakened something in the labyrinthine corridors of my own mind. Sleep became a rare commodity. Nightmares of disembodied voices and faceless figures plagued my nights. Each recording I reviewed left a residue of despair that clung to me like a second skin. One evening, while reviewing a particularly disturbing recording, I noticed an anomaly, a brief flicker in the video, a moment where the victim's expression changed from sheer terror to something almost resigned. Intrigued, I enhanced the frame, and to my shock, I recognized a symbol, a sigil that I had seen before, etched into the metal casing of the devices found at each crime scene. It was a mark of ownership, a twisted signature left by those who orchestrated this macabre enterprise. The realization that the victims' stolen identities were part of a larger puzzle forced me to confront my own past. I recalled a case early in my career, a case that I had shelved away in the recesses of my memory. A case involving a series of mysterious disappearances that had haunted me for years. Could it be that I too had been marked by the archive? The thought was chilling. I began to retrace my steps, diving into old case files, interviewing former colleagues, and following up on long-forgotten leads. Every new piece of evidence pulled me further into a vortex of betrayal and deception. I discovered that many of my former peers had ties to the old research institute, connections that went back to experiments that blurred the line between man and machine. It was a secret they had all agreed to keep buried, a secret that was now clawing its way back into the light. In one harrowing encounter, I met with a whistleblower, a former lab technician who had risked everything to come forward. In a dimly lit cafe, his eyes darted nervously as he explained that the technology was more than a recording device. "It's a conduit," he whispered, "between life and death, between memory and oblivion. With each recording, a part of you is given away. It's why you feel that emptiness, that void where your soul should be." His words resonated with me, stirring a deep-seated fear that perhaps I had already paid that price without even realizing it. With the pieces of the puzzle finally coming together, I orchestrated a plan to expose the archive. I coordinated with a trusted few within the police department and the media, determined to bring the truth to the public. The night of the final sting operation, I returned to the old laboratory, this time accompanied by a tactical team. The atmosphere was electric, a charged silence that hinted at the culmination of a long and arduous journey. In the heart of the lab, surrounded by relics of abandoned science, we found the central hub, a room filled with screens, servers, and more devices than I had ever seen. As we secured the area, I felt that ever-familiar presence once more. It was as if the collective terror of all the stolen identities was manifesting in that room, a silent chorus of voices demanding justice. I uploaded all the recovered data to a secure network, broadcasting the files and recordings live. For one haunting moment, the screen filled with the last moments of countless victims, a symphony of suffering, hope, and despair. The world watched in shock as the grotesque reality of the archive was unveiled, and the conspirators' intricate web of deceit unraveled in real time. In the aftermath, arrests were made, and the technology was seized. Yet, even as the syndicate was dismantled, the experience left an indelible mark on me. I often find myself staring at my reflection, questioning whether the void inside me is merely a scar or something more, a lingering echo of the identities that were stolen and never fully returned. Every day, I struggle to reconcile the horrors I witnessed with the man I once was, hoping that in time, I might reclaim the parts of myself that were lost in the depths of the flesh archive. As I write this, I understand that the story isn't truly over. The darkness we uncovered may have been driven underground, but its echoes continue to haunt the corners of our society, and perhaps even my own soul. I have become both a guardian against and a prisoner of that relentless terror. And in that twilight between memory and oblivion, I remain ever vigilant, ready to confront the shadows that linger in the aftermath of humanity's own forgotten sins.